Welcome back to the lab here. So lab 9 in our virtual series. This week we're looking at our physiological responses to exercise while wearing a face mask. So it's gonna be the same protocol that we've used for the majority of our sessions. We're doing 15 minutes of submaximal exercise, getting those baseline measures of heart rate and blood pressure, oxygen saturation, lactate, and an RPE score. And then we're gonna be doing 15 minutes of exposed work. So in this case, we're gonna be using a face mask. We're gonna be doing 15 minutes at about 90 watts, trying to look at that heart rate response, where we finished off at about 130 beats per minute in part A. And then we'll also be looking at those other variables. And so we're gonna see if wearing a face mask has any effect on the body during exercise. Now this is obviously more of an aerobic type of exercise, and so we could potentially do an anaerobic one as well. But for the purpose of this lab and to get the point across, we're just gonna be doing that 15 minutes of aerobic or submaximal aerobic work. Now again, there's not too much to this video. The first part, like I said, we've done this a million times, so I only show you one timestamp. So real quick, so I'll fill in most of the data sheet for you on that one. And then part B, there's gonna be 3 time points where we collect some data. So not too much to look at, but more so for you guys to interpret the data and then write up some responses. So go ahead and watch the lab. Let me know if you have any questions throughout that, and I'll see you at the end of the video for a quick little wrap up. Hope you enjoy. Welcome back to the lab. Today we are doing our Ode to COVID physiological testing. And so what we're going to do is we are going to see what physiological effects wearing a face mask has during exercise. So as I said in lecture, or probably said in lecture, some of the gyms are opening, but you have to wear a face mask. And so is this going to help or hinder performance? And so we're going to look at a number of different variables today to see what the physiological response is to having something covering your mouth and your nose while you're exercising. But in true form, just like we've done in the last few labs, we are going to do a 15-minute submax steady state ride and collect all of our variables beforehand. So again, I'm only going to do this once for this part because we've done it so many times. I have a feeling you guys completely understand what is going on here. But for this lab, we're going to be collecting the wattage that we're working at. So we're at 90 watt. We're 10 minutes in right now. We're at about 90 watts. We have a heart rate of 133. We have a blood pressure of 100/60. Our oxygen saturation is 98, and our participant is working at about a 12 RPE. So in a couple seconds here, I'm going to take a lactate. I'll write that one in for you, so you don't have to fill in the box here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do about a 15-minute submax exercise with a face mask on, and see what happens to all of those variables here. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back in about 5 minutes with a face mask, and we'll get you all set up and see what happens and whether or not this may or may not be a good idea. Well, welcome to a new lab for Kim 363. This is our COVID-19 face mask lab, and how a face mask may affect or what the results are going to be due to wearing a face mask on the body. So we've got a number of metrics we're going to collect throughout this lab. We have the resistance. So we did the pre-submax test. We're working at 90 watts. We're going to continue that through the entire test here, the assessment. We're at 110 beats per minute. We are 3 minutes into the test right now. We just did a blood pressure of 98/62. Our oxygen saturation was at 98%, so pretty standard on that one. We have a lactate of 8.8. So a little bit higher than what we would expect right now. We had a resting lactate of 2.8, so it's up quite a ways from that. So we're going to monitor that one pretty closely here. And our participant says he's working at 12 RPE. So again, that was our 3-minute variable, or 3-minute time interval, sorry. We're going to do one, I'll check back with you in about 7 minutes, 8 minutes here. We'll do a 10-minute one. And then we'll do a 15-minute one here as well. So we're going to try and collect as many as we can every minute, fill in as much as we possibly can, and we're going to see what this face mask actually does to exercise or how it affects the body, or even if it does at all. So stay tuned. and we'll come back with you in a second. We're just approaching that 10-minute mark here of working with our face mask on. Our oxygen saturation is about 98%. So I'm gonna quickly take that off of your finger. We're gonna do a lactate reading again here. See what we get to, and then while that is going on, we're going to take a blood pressure. So wipe some of this off. So we got our lactate going on here. When that comes back, I'll let you know. Our heart rate is at 124, 10 minutes in. We put our stethoscope in here. We've got our blood pressure cuff all set up. So we're about 108/62, so pretty standard response to blood pressure right now. Systolic's going up, diastolic's roughly the same from where we started. And we have a 8.8 lactate here. So who knows, first time we've done this one, and we'll keep going. We'll check back in with you here in 5 more minutes and see what our final tallies are. Well, we've reached that 15-minute mark, or just before that 15-minute mark of our face mask lab. And so I'm gonna take one quick lactate and then I'll continue to talk throughout this one. So this one's been very generous again, like I said. Alright, so we got our lactate reading here. Look at that. And so we've gone through most of our numbers. We've had a heart rate gone up to about 128. The last blood pressure reading at 15 minutes was 108/62, so not a whole lot of change compared to our 10-minute mark. The oxygen saturation down to 97%, so from the start it's gone down 2%. Maybe something we would expect, not quite sure. Remember, we're keeping some of the air right around that mouth. So maybe when we breathe out carbon dioxide, there's a higher partial pressure of carbon dioxide and a lower partial pressure of oxygen. So that could be one of the factors on why our oxygen saturation is decreased a little bit. I would say that's kind of expected. And so we have a 9.1 millimoles per liter lactate, so it's gone up a little bit. Maybe it's gone up because of the carbon dioxide, I'm not quite sure, but it's something we have to investigate and we'll talk about in the lab. And one last time, how hard are you working here? 14. About a 14. So the subjective analysis has gone up just a little bit, working a little bit more difficult. One thing to notice is that our face mask, there is a lot of room for the air to get into the side, but maybe one of the reasons why we're not seeing too many different factors, or maybe there's just no implication at all. So this will conclude our face mask lab. Thanks for tuning in, and again, I will look forward to seeing your lab write-ups. Thanks for watching the lab portion. I hope you guys have an idea of what was happening during this lab. Again, the data sheet is posted on Blackboard. So not too many things changed. We got a little decrease in our oxygen saturation, maybe to be expected, maybe not to be expected. And then we had a large increase in our lactate production. So again, based on that hypothesis, if you listen to the lecture, that might be something that's expected. I wouldn't expect it to be that high, but again, that's just my interpretation. So go ahead and answer those lab questions. I'll look for your lab reports in a week here, and I will see you next time. So thanks again for watching, and again, if you have any questions, let me know. Send me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Hope you guys have another great week.